See that you're born an Italian if you want your life to be great. See that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great.
How about some Donadell?
That's a nice.
Hey there, Paisani, and welcome back to another episode of the Italian American Podcast. I'm John Viola, along with my partner in crime, the notorious POB, the Italian American Wikipedia, Mr. Patrick O'Boyle. We are here at the corner of Mulberry and Grand, Red Sauce Studio, in the heart of Little Italy, at the crossroads of Italian America. This is the Italian American Podcast, and we are so thrilled to be with you this week. It is going to be an episode I am sure you will never forget, because for all of these years, Pat and I have done so much work together in Italy. Here, I think a lot of people think of us as sort of like Kermit and Fozzie bookends, you know, like we're always together.
I know you should do a Kermit and Fozzie.
I should draw that
T-shirt.
Yeah, moving right along, like you and me in the Studebaker.
Then that'd be all the copyright. And
yeah, we
all
get
that.
like everything else I get in trouble for in copyrights. But
It's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
amen. That's very much the truth. And if you're interested in our T-shirts, ItalianPower.com. You can get them now. They're all individual designs made by us here at Red Sauce Studio, and they are very unique to our brand. Maybe we'll get them one up there before it gets taken down for copyright infringement. But the bottom line is, we do so much together. We are kind of like bookends. And today we have a pair of bookends here from Italian America that are very famous and probably in your mind's eye pictured always together. Patty and Patty, welcome to the Italian American Podcast.
Thank you. Here we are.
Happy to be here.
We are
Patty
thrilled.
Martucci.
Patty Scardino.
Where you going to go?
What are you going to do?
This is a pair that everybody sort of sees together. You guys are all over social media. How did this end up? Why this account? What are you doing?
Oh, well, a long time ago, it was about maybe 12, 13 years ago, right, Patty?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote a play called Patty and Patty, A Conversation. And then it went to a short and attention span festival down on not Mulberry Street, down where we're here on Mulberry Street, down on McDougal Street. And they produced this play, and Patty and Patty were in it. And then we started doing web series, right?
Yeah,
After
I mean,
that.
when we started doing it, we had to explain to people what a web series was because people didn't know. It was like television in 1980s.
Ground floor.
It really was, you know, and then it took off. We got, last couple of years, we really took off, and we just started, talking, and we're the real deal, so people respond to it.
Started from a one-act play, and then we just kept doing from there. We said, let's keep filming, so we started the web series.
Yeah.
And everybody has embraced you here, Italy. You guys are pretty well loved.
We got fans
In Tasmania.
That's
You believe it?
Moldova.
You want to know the truth?
Scotland,
we
New
have
Zealand.
we have a very good following in Australia.
Yeah,
with the Italian
Australians.
Australians.
There's a lot of Italians.
A lot of
there in
Italians,
Melbourne,
that's right.
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Right.
I went there. I
all
went
over.
to Australia to meet the Italian community when I used to work in D.C. It was
so many.
You
I
should
got
have, there's an
relatives
Italian.
there.
We have I don't want to say spin-off, a sister, right?
Yeah.
Because we had listeners. The Italian Australian podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were listeners. They started the show. Yeah,
Good
they're
friends,
Big
wonderful
Italian.
people.
I have a lot of cousins in Australia. They're
Do
all
you
over.
really?
Yeah, and in Melbourne, and what's the other big place in Australia?
Sydney.
Sydney,
Yeah.
right, Sydney.
It's about the only.
I got a lot of relatives there. My grandmother's brothers and sisters moved there because there was work before in Australia when there was no work in Italy.
Yeah.
During the war and after the war, and they all moved there. But then some of them moved back. Like my aunt, she moved back to Italy because they had a farm and they had land, so they came back.
Think about how far that is to go live in Australia.
I know
That's
people.
like-
I got
Or even
And
my
they really-
grandfather coming off the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, he came over here in steerage. He was originally from Bari. He came here, I think he was 16. And he came here off the boat. And it must have been like that scene in The Godfather.
Yeah.
And they all seen, all of a sudden,
The
you see
same
Statue
thing.
of Liberty. And he came here and he joined the army to gain his citizenship.
Is that right?
He served in World War I.
Wow.
And I didn't even realize this because he died before I was born.
So did my grandfather.
Yeah.
He was in World War I in France.
And that's what
Yeah.
they did. And my brother, who's also a veteran, said back then, like his whole battalion, they were all Italians. They were all Italian
Yeah.
immigrants. And they served. And he got gassed there.
Oh.
And he survived, fortunately.
Oh, my
but
God.
He the rest of his life, his lungs were compromised.
My great grandfather died of in Peekskill. We could talk about Peekskill come up, but he fought the Italian army in World War One. But I guess his lungs were shot after that. Who knows what they encountered, and he didn't last much longer after the war. I know that.
My grandfather, my brother still has my grandfather's sword.
Wow.
World War One. He's got it up. He put it on his wall. But my grandfather came from Italy when he was 18. And he lived on Canal Street. He would take, the train to Canal Street with all these guys, I guess, and they worked on the Bear Mountain Bridge.
Wow.
So you know the Bear Mountain
Yeah,
Bridge,
that's
right?
for those who are not from the New York area. It's all the way up towards
and they call
West
it,
Point and the
They
mountains.
call it the goat,
Schlep,
goat
yeah, it's
trail.
just,
Everybody from Highland Falls calls it the goat trail.
Yeah.
That's the winding roads on Route 9. And then the Bear Mountain Road. And then he worked on that bridge, and they would all go back down to Canal Street and then come back up again. And then, he came at 15, and then he came through Ellis Island, and then he came back at 18. So it was like, it was like amazing stories. Like my God, what did this kid come by himself?
I know. Can you imagine getting on a boat as a young man like
and
that?
you don't know
with
a stitch of English.
A cardboard suitcase,
Nothing.
probably.
Yeah.
And
If you were
then-
lucky, you had a
Nothing.
cardboard
Of course,
suitcase, right?
I don't
Lucky.
even know where he lived. I mean, my grandmother was from the Bronx originally, but I don't know where he lived when he came down here. I think her mother was born down here in this neighborhood, on Mulberry Street. Never spoke English. I heard. Again, I never met her. But, and then he worked in a factory his whole life.
Yeah.
We're talking about some very serious stuff here, right? We're talking about immigration and the experience of real sacrifice.
Yeah.
And we were talking before on the mic, how do you do this show? Because Patty and Patty, although beloved by millions of people out there, you're characters.
Yeah.
There's real women behind these characters.
Yeah,
and I think
right.
here we're much more inclined to dig into the real women that you are. So could you reintroduce yourselves to the audience as outside of Patty and Patty?
Absolutely.
Sure. I'm Anita Salvati. I play Patty Martucci.
Yes, and I'm Marilyn Macherise, and I play Patty Scardino.
So first of all, how did you come up with the last names? Are they owed to anybody? Or you just
Not really. For me, it was just sounded like a real name, a real Italian name.
Because I have many friends with that last name.
Oh, really? Yes. Yeah, 'cause I wanted it to
And
be
Franny,
a real name,
listen,
but
it's a
not,
Scardino,
not
so-
like Tina Tubatini or something silly
it
like
had
that.
to be real.
Yeah.
Martucci is real.
It's real, and it has a nice
Scardino
punch
is
to
real.
it.
That's true.
Martucci, it has a good punch.
I always said if I had an Italian alias, it'd be Bacciagalupe because I would take it
Bacciagalupe,
from
yeah. Oh, that's
Abbott
great.
Costello. That's my.
Costello's
Bacciagalupe.
brother-in-law.
Yeah.
That's right. It was really his brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law.
Was that his brother-in-law?
That was
Yeah, the
his
actor.
brother-in-law.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
That was
That was
his
his
brother-in-law.
brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Mr. Bacciagalupe.
Forget
when
the
he
guy's
comes
real.
in to
His
eat the cake.
stage name was Medigan's stage name, but
Yeah.
Oh.
And
the
he
cake's
was
my
not
favorite
seen
thing
it,
ever.
'cause we have a lot of younger people. Go on YouTube
Yes.
Yeah.
and look up Mr. Bacciagalupe
Oh
with
my
Abbott
God.
and Costello.
Abbott
The
and
birthday
Costello
cake.
were
Birthday
hilarious.
cake.
The birthday cake's the best.
And who's on
I'm
first?
gonna eat it
Nah,
right
use
here.
those guys.
Brilliant.
Somebody.
What's a mangiata? Right in the cake.
When I was a kid, before there was YouTube, and before you could access TV whenever
Yeah.
you wanted, right?
Yeah.
It was. Yes, we had VCRs. I'm 41. We had VCRs, but you couldn't find this stuff.
No.
And my dad would tell us stories at night, my brothers and I, to go to bed. And we'd always say to him, Dad, tell us the Mr. Bacciagalupe. And he'd tell the whole skit over again of
Yeah.
Mr. Bacciagalupe and the birthday cake.
It's
So
the
that was,
best.
so I think Seinfeld said everything that he did on Seinfeld, they just took from Abbott and Costello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a lot. The other thing about Abbott and Costello is television. There was only a few channels.
Yeah.
So you had something in common with everyone that watched TV.
It was a collective experience.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, did you see Carol Burnett,
Yeah.
Sunday night?
Who
Did you
shot
see
JR?
Right,
Yeah,
United
exactly.
an entire
Or
country.
Michael Jackson doing the original moonwalk
Yeah.
on the
Right.
25th
Oh, my
anniversary
God.
of Motown. I
Right.
remember coming into work. I was in college at the time, I was at NYU. I remember coming into work the next day, and everybody on every. Did you see Michael Jackson? Last
Everybody
night?
watched it.
Amazing.
It was
Yeah.
like Ed Sullivan.
It was like
you
the
watched
Super
Ed
Bowl.
Sullivan on
Yeah.
Sunday
You know.
night at
It's
8
like the Super
o'clock.
Bowl.
You watched Abbott and Costello at 5:30
Yeah.
or 4:30. You came home from
And Ed
school
Sullivan.
and they were on every night. So you had this experience. Now you have so many channels,
Yeah.
which is great in a way, but it's it breaks something down.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve community sometimes.
Yeah, I just watched a
So it's-
documentary about the Rat Pack on Hulu the other
Right.
day. And they were talking about the legacy of these actors, young actors in certain movies at a certain year in the 80s. And one of the sociologists they had on said basically, like, you have to remember back then, content was so limited that everybody had either seen the movie or had a working understanding of the movie and the character and the story arc because everybody talked about it. It was so
There
few
was so many channels.
things.
That was it.
It's
That was it.
amazing,
But
really.
I think it's democratized the entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
Because none of us here would have a shot if they still controlled it. Like, if we were in a 3-network world, because I think that one of the things that
You
has
can create
impressed
your
me-
own work now.
Sure,
You
like,
can, absolutely.
It's like vaudeville, right? So you have all these small theaters, right, with people who are local,
Yeah.
and can do stuff that has a micro audience that you couldn't, like the way ethnic radio, like the Pasquale COD 1950s ethnic radio. That's why I
Right.
think this is going to be. We were saying this one time. We were talking about numbers and stuff.
You
like
have
that.
much more. It's much more diversity, and
Oh,
you have
sure.
a big open field now.
Yeah.
It gives everybody
know.
a shot now.
It does.
Well,
It
you-
does. You
you-
could create your own.
You guys are actors, right?
Yes,
That,
you're
that's
both
your
professionals.
professional
Both
background.
Professional actors, right?
Yeah.
Did you think that you would be doing this all these years later, consistently every week putting out new stuff?
Not every week because I didn't know what a web series was. We got together. I thought that I would be writing another extension of a play. I thought we'd still be doing the characters, but not like this. I mean, it's changed also. These were characters in a play. It was very poignant, the play. It was comedy, but it was poignancy also. And now it's different. Like sometimes we do short clips. It's gotten shorter because of what the demand is on social media. So it's different, but we do it all. We can do it all now, which is great.
And I think that the interesting difference is that I think why the characters have endured is because they're 3-dimensional. And a lot of people have said that to us. It's not just, hey, yo, you see people on the internet doing that stuff. And yeah, of course, there's an element to what we do
Yes.
that has.
Sure.
But it's because the characters are 3-dimensional and they have lives and they're serious at times. And, I think that's why it had such a tremendous response. When we first did it, people were howling.
Yeah.
But at the end, a friend of ours, we met doing Tony and Tina's wedding off Broadway, and a friend of ours, a videographer, and had worked for NBC, he shot it, and he said at the end, he says, he said, I was crying,
Yeah.
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 Because it really made him cry. But people, and we walked off stage, and there were these kids in the dressing room who were about to go on with their little thing,
Yeah.
and the guy says, man, you slayed him. And we were like,
I mean, we describe ourselves as two middle-aged Italian broads from Hell's Kitchen who can't
Yeah.
fit into the real world.
Yeah.
So that's something funny about that, but there's something very real about
Something
that,
very
too.
real about that.
Because as you get older and you have to learn new things and things are changing around you, and especially for us as Patties, it gets scary. I mean, we look around, people are not in our building anymore, things are changing, New York is changing.
Yeah.
The store you saw here is not there anymore. The people in your building are gone. So there's a reality to it that people can relate to.
Also, even particularly as women, when you reach a certain age as a woman, you walk down the street and you realize men don't notice you the way they used to.
As much as they did.
Yeah.
It goes both ways, by the
Does
way.
it?
So-
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Like, believe me, I go walk all the time
We
now. I'm
make
like,
sure
nobody notices that.
They
notice us.
Yeah, no,
we
not
make
me.
sure that people notice us.
No, look at me. Who's the no? Look at
You
this.
still look good, Patty.
Hey, we're all right.
But the interesting thing is, you're dealing, like you say, with multidimensional characters, and there is something very familiar and inviting about that sort of internal outsiderness, right? Like I say a lot of the time here, one of the reasons I've done what I've done with my career and focused so much on my heritage is because I was taken out of my neighborhood in Brooklyn as a kid and moved to an Irish town in New Jersey with no other Italian people, really no other Italian people.
Wow.
And I had almost like an immigrant experience.
Wow.
And that's been a big part of who I am. And I think sometimes this kind of content, when you can create characters that people can relate to around that sort of subtle outsiderness, right? Because things are changing and the sort of the telltale values and sort of shared community structures that we all understood as what made Italian America is changing rapidly. And in some places it's gone completely. So I think that there's something about these like these characters that harken back to that, right? Like you're still seeing the
Yes,
world
it's
in
like
that
a
way.
generation that's you have to honor it because it's not going to be here much longer.
Yeah, it's almost like the greatest
That's so-
generation,
that's so
like that
profound.
Tom
We've
Brokaw.
had that
the greatest
Yeah.
generation
experience.
thing.
Yeah.
I feel like we're part of that because we come from that. Also, it's what you're saying. How you grew up in an Irish neighborhood. It's what people impose on you too, as what they think Italian is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So people impose on each other all the time in all ethnic groups, and when you are a part of that ethnic group and you come from roots, like I'm 100% Italian, I come from a real thing, and I visited Italy and I've seen where my parents were born, and I knew the jokes that they told as I grew up. And then when I got to Italy, I understood those. There's there's grassroots there. And that's why I feel so pulled so much when I go to Italy. I feel so pulled by the culture there.
Your family's from Abruzzo.
Abruzzo, yes.
And your family's...
Eastern on the Adriatic.
My grandfather was from Bari, and my grandmother's family was Napolitan.
Oh, wow. So
But I'm actually half Italian because my father married a WASP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
So you had a WASP mother.
Yeah, but she learned how to cook. I mean, she cooked like
She
a demon.
converted.
Because my grandmother lived with us.
Oh, that's great.
So she learned all how to make the Italian stuff. Plus, she had a German grandmother, and she made amazing like a pork roast with sauerkraut.
I love
and
German
apples
food.
Yeah,
I'm a big
delicious.
sucker for
Me
German
too.
food.
No, she was a
Heidelberg,
great
I
cook.
go.
Bratwurst. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
But my grandmother was an amazing cook and a great baker, and she used to bake all the bread for the family when she was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I would come home, she'd make a cake like it was like, you're sitting here drinking a cup of, it was like nothing.
And they
That-
made the bread.
Yeah,
I mean,
made
they
the
had to
bread.
make the bread.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what they did. I mean,
She
my
made
mother
homemade
cooked.
pizzas,
My
yeah.
mother made homemade pastas since she was
Yeah.
9 years old.
Yeah.
We
So,
were
I
just
mean,
talking about
we
that in my
cook
family.
because we learned from our mothers.
You both cook?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, good
definitely.
cook.
What's your top dishes?
Oh, I love pasta, marinara sauce, meatballs. I love to make a beautiful risotto.
Yeah.
Really, all kinds of.
I
food.
like to make the sausage with broccoli rabe and put that. I also make a really great pesto. You know, when you've got, say, some arugula that's going south and you want to make, I
Yeah.
do like an arugula walnut pesto.
Oh,
nice.
that sounds
And you know
good.
what I did? And this was quite by accident. I was doing a show out in Wisconsin. I was doing Saturday Night Fever. And I went to this great farmer's market and got these gorgeous little carrots. But they were from the market, so they had the long carrot
yeah.
tops. And I cut them off and I said,
You could
that's
use
a
them."
shame. I said, I looked it up just to make sure. You could
You don't
eat them.
poison yourself,
You know,
yeah.
And I says, I'm going to make pesto. And I had
Yeah.
pistachio. And I made pistachio,
Ooh.
carrot top
How'd it
pesto.
come out? Really?
Well, you in a
was like
hotel
that.
you made this? Where were
No,
you?
no, I was at the cast house.
Oh,
You know, and I made it for myself. It was out of this world. And now I make it and I also do it with shrimp. Do some sauteed shrimp.
Wow.
with
You
that
You
and
could do it
garlic.
with
Oh.
anything. It's delicious.
Plus, it's something you would have thrown in a landfill.
That's
That's
the
right.
worst thing now, that when you buy carrots,
Oh, I know, and it's
they're
all...
over, the tops are cut off.
Yeah, they put them
cut
in
the top
soup.
off
You
of
could use them for
celery.
soup.
There's so many
The celery, that's the
ancillary-
best part.
That's
I
the
That's the
know
best
it.
part of the celery. My
I put it in
grandfather...
the salad.
Yeah.
My mother used to chop it
Absolutely.
up and put it in
Yeah.
the salad.
We make bacala salad on Christmas. My grandfather
Oh,
would
you
say,
put the
get the
celery
celery with the
in.
most leaves. You can't even
Yes,
find leaves
absolutely.
anymore.
That is
Chop
like
it
the
up fine and
greatest
put it in.
Yep.
violation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
To
beets.
us.
Yeah.
Don't
Beet
throw
greens.
away
Those are
the
delicious.
green
And they're full of
tops.
iron.
They're delicious.
Yeah, a lot. We throw out so much.
We had a big garden when I was growing up, so we picked the basil and
Yeah.
we made the pesto and everything delicious. You know,
Oh,
made all that
yeah.
stuff. I love it. I make an artichoke pie
Yeah,
too. Let
it's
me
very
tell you,
good.
I
How you
make a
make the
beautiful
artichoke
artichoke.
pie?
I take the frozen artichokes and I chop them up. I saute them in olive oil and garlic, and then I put in my, I grate the fresh mozzarella and Parmesan cheese, and then I mix it all together with 4 eggs, and I put it in the pie shell.
That sounds
It's
good.
Very good.
delicious.
Very good.
It's like a quiche, but it's
But it's less
different.
eggy, maybe.
It's so
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah. It's more like
so
a
good.
ricotta. And,
Yeah.
You have
you
it with
know,
soup. You can have
like
it
a
with
cheese.
salad.
all
you can
come
have
back to the same conversation.
Food.
Food.
What can
It's
we?
always
Actors,
food.
actresses, painters, sculptors,
It's always
writers,
food.
rocket scientists.
Yeah.
No matter who we have on, it
What
goes
was
back to the exact
your
same
grandmother's
conversation.
Oh, I love
pasta?
making
Or
pasta
your
fazool.
grandmother's minestrone beans.
My grandma's
that's
pasta
the
fazool is my
best.
favorite thing on the planet. If I
Really?
could, if I could go back
Yeah.
in time and have one dish,
So good.
it'd be my grandmother's pasta fazool.
Pasta
My
fazool
mother
is what
makes-
separates us.
She makes
Because
the
it gets
homemade
very-
pasta fazool when you cut up the homemade pasta and it's kind of like
Now,
rough.
was yours more
Oh,
like a
Maron.
soupy or more like?
My grandma's was
pasta
very
dish.
creamy, soupy.
Really?
I don't know how she did
Ours
it.
was soupy.
It was very starchy,
Soupy, me
Yeah.
too.
soupy.
Yeah.
But like a creamy. It was like now I get it now. It's very like a lot of times
Mine
you get
was
it's very
dry.
brothy.
Yeah.
You're a dry. I know
was
you're a
Now,
dry pasta.
where are your people from again?
So my grandmother was from Sanza, same town as Sabino's family.
Where
And,
is that in Italy?
It's in the Valle di Diano, like southern Campania in the mountains.
Oh, yeah,
Almost
yeah,
Calabria,
below Na- yeah.
basically.
Below
All right.
Naples.
Yeah, way below. It's
Campania's
like
nice.
province of Salerno. So you're going from
Yeah.
Salerno, you go inland, and then
That's gastronomically more Lucania.
it is. It's Lucania, yeah.
It's more Basilicata.
Yeah, it's Basilicata food
It's like
cult.
with Calabria and
Basilicata,
Basilicata
yeah.
and Campania all kind of
all come together. That's exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really mountainy.
Down in Matera.
Yeah,
Matera's
not far. We're like, and then my grandfather's family's there.
there. Yes.
Oh yeah.
You know,
We had a
I
meal
was
in
told,
Matera.
is Matera near Bari?
Yes, it's
Because
an hour
my
and
name
a
is
half.
Matarese, which is
Yeah.
Matarese.
Yeah.
And somebody told me once, I bet you're from Matera.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Have you
Might
gone?
be Matera.
No, I've been to Italy, but not.
You gotta go to
not
Matera.
Matera is, oh my God.
Like nothing like you ever seen in your
Maybe
life.
for my
It's
anniversary.
Cape Town. It's
I'll
an
go.
yes. It's an old Cape Town. I had pistachio pasta there with the cream sauce, a homemade pasta.
Oh my God! I
The
got,
food
I got
was-
to leave now.
Yeah, you're gonna.
The
You
sun
me tell
was
you.
going
Food was-
down. It
Pistachios.
was so romantic. The sun was going down. The mountains. It was a cave. You know, we stayed like in a
Wow.
cave.
Oh, you
hotel.
stayed there.
Yes, we stayed in a
Oh,
cave.
wow.
See, we
John,
visited
my
from
brother
Bari.
and I went, the
We
three
were
of
in
us.
Bari for a business
cave
trip,
hotel
and
with
we
a
drove.
swimming pool.
Oh, my
And
wife
you know,
would love
Bond's
that.
last picture, James
Yes.
Bond's last picture was filmed in Matera.
Now the prices
the
are going to be
beginning.
through the roof. That's how it
Love
goes.
it.
Yeah.
I was there last year. We can't even get hotels
Oh, I
anymore.
love it.
It's so expensive
It's
in all
an
these places in
it's an
Italy.
artist town too. There's a lot of
Yeah.
artists.
There's a lot of ours.
Yeah, we met some
Beautiful.
interesting people. We did like
Oh,
a
my
project
God.
in the south.
Let's do a show in Matera.
Yes,
Matera.
can we? You said a lot of Italians follow what you guys are doing. They really receive it well.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, they
nice.
love
That's a nice
us.
change
They
of
love us.
pace.
We do live. We go live on TikTok and Instagram.
yeah.
And we have people, you know, and we see the people
All over the
calling
world.
in, and then we talk.
Africa last time, people
and
from
so
Africa
we have a lot of
watching us.
people from Italy.
Yeah.
So TikTok tells. This is how much we don't know. I don't know. You probably know.
I don't know.
So TikTok tells you what countries are watching you.
If you're doing live, it will say where they're
scrolls.
from, or sometimes they'll say where they're from. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I
I
don't
think
know
it
if we
actually
could do
says where they're
something
from.
live.
It scrolls.
yeah.
It does. It'll say, you know, it'll say Florida.
Or they'll
it'll
say hello from.
Sweden.
They'll say hello from Tasmania,
yeah,
or hello
right.
from
Or
Africa.
Scotland or whatever.
What do you do on a live TikTok? You just
We talk.
just
just talk.
I mean, Anita
Just
and
like
I,
what we're doing
we
now.
finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
We can talk to anybody.
talk for hours.
We can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Really.
That's nice.
And that's
We
what we
can.
do. We
Yeah.
talk and they ask questions
Yeah.
and we answer
And we
questions.
just
talk
talk.
about food. We talk about ourselves.
In fact,
talk
we
about
have
what
to
like
limit it
cook.
to an hour because at one point we used to just keep going because there were so many fans just kept coming
How do
on.
you stay in character?
We just do.
We just
We're
stay in
used to it.
character.
When you're an actor,
that's
you just-
that's what
yeah.
you do.
I mean, if you were an actor, you would be in character for 2 hours a
you
night.
stay in
possibly.
right. You stay in character.
Yeah.
We used to do improv at Tony
Yeah.
and Tina's wedding.
But that's really hard.
2.5
Improv. That's
hours.
hard. That's.
Well, they're both hard.
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
both hard.
Well, I love it. I mean, we love improv.
Yeah.
I mean, 2.5 hours. You didn't go off stage in Tony and Tina's wedding.
No.
You were on stage the whole time.
So I never went to see that. I always wanted to see Tony and Tina's
Yeah.
wedding. For those out there who are maybe a younger portion of the audience, it was a smash hit play that was you basically went to a wedding,
Yeah.
an Italian family wedding,
Right.
but a good portion of the attendees were actors,
Right.
And the audience was at the wedding, right? That was
Right,
the
yeah, it
and,
was
and it
your
ran
audience was
for a
the-
long
It was
time.
That
over
was the
25 years, I think.
25
it went.
years.
It was the longest running off-Broadway, non-musical off-Broadway show in history.
Yeah,
Right.
and you ad-libbed the entire thing.
Depended
No.
on the characters, there were some
Yeah.
scripted moments, like in the church and with
It's
the ceremony. But I would say,
It was about 40% scripted and the rest is improv.
Yeah.
I would say 40,
yeah,
60.
some
something like that.
characters didn't have any
Yeah.
written lines,
Right.
but you just improvised
And you just built your
and you
character.
talked to the audience, and you were just.
You built your character.
That's intimidating to a non-actor. That's intimidating. I have to say, for me at least.
It's thrilling.
But that goes back to
I love it.
the roots. If you take what fascinates me, if you're in Godfather 2, right? The immigrant theater that was down here, right? And you had an audience that engaged with the people on stage. You ever see that? Like they would yell out like "Look behind you! He has a gun!" Like
Right.
You know, they were like engaged with it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like
And I'm
walking
sure-
on a tightrope without a without a rope, walking on a
net.
tightrope without a net. And I love it. I love that feeling of being on edge.
Do you ever feel encumbered by Patty and Patty? Do you ever feel? Does it ever a stress or ever feel like you don't want to be Patty and Patty someday and you have to?
I don't feel that, but I think it's always, as someone who has such a big social media, it's content, content.
That
having to produce
sometimes,
content.
Yes, sometimes it's like, oh,
You
we
know,
have
and
to
sometimes
we
we're
have
really
to get
down,
due.
and you're like, gee, what's the matter? Like sometimes it's just the algorithms
Yeah.
with TikTok.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Like, oh, we
just
got to
not
get this
promoting
on
it. You know,
IG. We have to get this
Yeah.
on TikTok. We have to do a few
yeah,
more
and
things.
what's trending, and
Right.
you know.
So sometimes you do have to follow those trends that sometimes you want to be doing a scene or you want to be doing something else with
Hmm.
it, but you have to always get that in. So,
Yeah, it is a beast of a schedule to keep these things afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
just
have to
constantly-
you have to keep doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
No, we
To
post every
feed.
day.
How did you get into acting? Like, were you kids and that's what you wanted to do? You wanted to be actors one day?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I was always in the plays, but I also designed sets because I was a really talented artist as well, and I considered becoming a scenic designer. but I wanted the glamour of acting. Yeah,
was
so
so
I went
glamorous.
to I went to NYU and I got a BFA there, and then I went to Webber Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art in London, and I got a postgraduate certificate because I wanted to study Shakespeare. Believe it or not, I'm a Shakespearean actor. And but you know, when I look at my resume, most of the stuff that I've got, it's been because I can do Italian New York.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like several films, TV shows, about 4 regional theater contracts, 3 off-Broadway shows because I can do Italian and or Jewish
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
I can do New York because I'm like 5th
We're gonna
generation.
get cast.
Your
We're gonna-
family's you're in New York, or you grew up in the city?
No, but my family's been in New York. I grew up, we bounced around a lot, but all over the metropolitan area. But my father was born in the Bronx and my mother in East Harlem.
Yeah.
My grandmother grew up
Your
in the
mother
Bronx.
in East Harlem,
Yeah,
and she was not Italian.
yeah. Well, that was Yorkville in East Harlem. That's where they lived.
She's
That's
Yorkville.
right.
Yorkville,
Okay.
but also East Harlem, like
Yeah.
106th Street.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's amazing. Yeah,
And
so,
then
so
they
that border.
moved
I
out
live in
of
Yorkville.
they moved out of there to Queens because it was considered upward mobility.
Sure, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Because she even then, it must have been the 1930s, because I was the youngest one by far. My mom said one of her earliest memories was her grandfather was pushing her through Central Park, and she had a little gold cross on. She was about 3, and somebody snatched it.
Oh my gosh.
Back
Oh,
then,
wow.
Yeah.
and that must have been the 1930s, you know.
Wow.
And then they moved out to I think Whitestone or something.
Yeah, sure,
when
makes
they were,
sense.
Yeah, Whitestone, College Point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she grew up out there.
Beautiful areas over
You
there.
forget about the Germans in Yorkville.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a whole
city was so
area
German.
there, and there's still German, stores,
a few
Schaller
little
and
bakeries,
Weber,
and there's
Yeah.
a
all
great
that.
restaurant. What is
Yeah.
it?
Heidelberg.
73rd Street? Heidelberg.
My
Yeah.
Heidelberg restaurant.
Every
There's-
time we
that's
don't
on-
want Italian, we go
The
there.
Heidelberg is in the 80s,
Yeah.
and then there's Schaller and Weber. Get your sausage.
Is that- I never
It's
went
on
there.
Is it next
86th
to the
Street,
Heidelberg?
second.
I didn't know. I never went.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be
Heidelberg and
more
Schaller and
German
Weber.
bakeries up there too.
Yeah,
But
there
now
was
you
a
find
really
them in
great
like
one.
near like Woodhaven. and-
Car-
Yes,
Board.
Woodhaven
Yeah,
and
Ridgewood,
Queens. Yes,
right.
Ridgewood's all. Yeah.
Lichtman's Bakery was there.
Yeah. My grandparents, my grandmother's family moved. They're Barres. They moved from here in Manhattan right before she was born to Middle Village, Queens. And my grandmother and my mother worked in German bakeries growing up because that was all
Yeah.
Germans out there, and
That's what, even in Peekskill, there was a great German bakery, the Modern Bake Shop. We used to get the big birthday cakes,
Yeah.
the giant birthday cakes.
There's not much left of German
So- no,
bakeries, really.
no.
No.
So I got into acting when I was in 2nd grade. I knew I wanted to be an actress when I was in 2nd grade because I got into this little play called Dr. Manners. And I remember the feeling I had. There was this kid, his name was Lowell. I love his last name. So his name was Lowell. And I had to swing him around. And he wouldn't, he was like, he was like, Mouchard.
He was a moke. Yeah.
And he was Mouchard. And I was like, come on, why is he swinging around? And I got this feeling. I still remember it on stage, that I just was in the right place. Something happened to me in 2nd grade. And from then on, I loved it. Then I was doing all the plays in grade school, Mr. Mysterious and Company. I still have the script. My mother made the dress. I was a pioneer woman, on a Conestoga wagon, and I had to kill the Indians. I had a rifle, and you wouldn't do that today.
No, you wouldn't put that play
can't
on
do that
today.
today.
No.
Yeah.
But that was before. I'd have a little picture of me and Michael Brophy. I had a class reunion. Michael Brophy, there he was, and he played the American Indian, and he was there, and I had this little pop gun rifle, and it was crazy. And then I went on and did all the high school plays. Then I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I studied acting there, and then I got an acting degree from that school, and then I went on to do I did improv. I studied improv for 5 years with the First Amendment Theater Company. We went out to Chicago. They had New York Olympics. We won that. We went out to Chicago. We performed at Second City. I studied with a couple of people from Second City, Del Close and Marty Friedberg. And then it was just, then after that, I was like in a couple of plays. I was in the Village, and then I got into Tony and Tina's. It was like meant to be because I loved improv.
Yeah.
I was pulled to improv.
That's amazing.
And so that's that, I got a teaching degree in the meantime also.
And you teach English as well.
Yes, English and drama, yeah.
Improv is it really is like a sport almost, really. You're like trained.
It's like fencing.
Yeah, there's a lot of
can be.
right. I mean, you got to be like mentally fit for improv.
There's
I
different
think.
kinds of improv.
I think you have for both.
Really?
Even you got to be mentally and physically fit to do Shakespeare.
Yeah,
or
you have
something.
to
You
be.
have to be. I mean, people to do
play.
live theater, to do a sustained performance, doing 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
a
I mean,
lot.
if you walk out of the theater and think, oh wow, it was great, and I did my job. If you shouldn't really be watching the actors going, wow, that must be really hard work. It might occur to you after you left the theater,
Yeah.
but I think if you're thinking that, you're not really in the
No,
moment.
it's true. You're
with
saying
them.
it now. I'm thinking
Yeah.
it now.
It shouldn't look like
it doesn't.
hard work at
No.
all. It should
I've never
look
thought about it.
natural.
I go to plays all the time. I never
Yeah.
ever think about that.
Occasionally, sometimes we would talk to the audience after doing Tony and Tina, for instance, and they would say, God, that's a lot of work, because this was so
do you
physically
do it every
demanding.
night?
How do you
That
do
was-
it every night?
that
How-
was
or when you're doing a scripted drama, how do you remember all those lines?
Right.
Sure.
I was like, honey, that's the least of my work.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know.
What then? You mentioned having all these roles in the sort of New York sphere,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dream role? If you could play anything you've ever wanted to play, what would they be?
Gee.
Oh, I get cast in, Italian and all the time and mothers and my dream role, I would love to play Madame Arcadi in Blithe Spirit.
I never heard of that.
Noel Coward.
Noel Coward.
Yeah.
She's this crazy medium.
I always wanted to
wild.
play Elvira, actually, who is the wife who comes back.
should do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I've aged
That's the
out
same
of her
play.
now. Yeah, I think I've aged out of her now, but I guess maybe Amanda in Glass Menagerie.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that somebody was saying something about the theater being fulfilling for an actor in a different way than maybe film is sometimes in
Yeah.
television and stuff like that. I think that's probably the
Well, the energy of the audience and immediacy of that. The thing that's wonderful about film and television, it's preserved. And you
Right.
can always
True.
see it's preserved.
Right.
But there's something kind of ephemeral about theater.
There's
you know.
yeah, theater is live. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't lie.
yeah.
No.
It's there.
Plus, you can
know.
do a performance, a matinee, completely different from the evening show.
Right.
Because the audience is different, the energy is different, you're
Right.
different, you've got cells that you've shed. That,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's
I mean,
different.
it's just different.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's nothing's perfect for an
No,
actor. I mean,
no.
sometimes you go on and you come off and you go, God, I didn't feel it. I didn't
Yeah.
feel that, or and then you go on at night and it's all of a sudden, whoa, it's totally different. It's like, how could this be so different than last, the performance at the matinee, and now it's the evening performance.
It's funny. So we always try to create stuff much like you guys are, right? Like you're leaving a legacy, like you say, owed to these people, and the words you use and the topics that you bring up. That's all going to be on this internet forever, God willing, right? As long as the earth is here.
Right.
And there's something about kind of reviving those things for people. So we try to do that in everything. And right now, we're about in the final phases of putting together an Italian American Christmas album that we did. So we dragged everybody. None of us are singers. We dragged everybody into sing, and we did all this stuff. And I was listening to it yesterday.
I went under duress.
Like everything else you do was under duress. It's like kicking and screaming.
I got
Yeah.
drafted into.
I thought you were going to say I got
album.
dragged kicking and screaming, which would have been accurate. That's
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
could we amend that? I got dragged kicking and screaming. But you said I did a good job. I
Did a
was
very good
stunned.
job. Yeah, he sang two songs. Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're really excited about it. But
Were Italian songs? Did you do Italian songs? Or?
both we did Italian songs and we did American songs that I rewrote to be Italian American. So, like for example, Sabino and Mario Bosco did a version of the Chipmunk song.
Okay.
But instead of I want a hula hoop, it's I just want a panettone.
Oh, that's
And so,
cute.
right? So, like, that's that kind of stuff. But when we were doing it, we were going to put something we did a couple of years ago and trying to re-edit it. There was a poem that I rewrote. It was the night before Christmas. The beat was the Feast of the Fishes. And we put it out
that's funny.
on YouTube, and we were going to reuse it, and I was going to re-edit it. And I was listening to it yesterday, and I finally decided I didn't want to use it because all these years later, two years later, whatever, listening to my voiceover stuff, which I'm not trained for, I said to myself, I would have really done this very differently now, and I didn't have the opportunity to do it, so we decided not to use it. But it must feel a bit like that too when you're performing. Like you do one, and maybe then the evening you do a completely different version of a performance, right? You start anew every time.
It's very different. The audience is different. The energy's different.
Yeah, you can't do this morning's or yesterday's performance.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
go
It's
out
done.
there trying to do that, you're
It's done.
not going to succeed.
You're doing
you
a
have
new
to
performance. You're
be there.
concentrated. You're in the
Yeah.
moment.
And
You're there.
the challenge
You're
is
there in
when
the
you have
moment.
a poopy audience.
Yeah.
And you got to like bring them along. When you have an audience that the energy is there, that's
Yeah.
easy.
I remember there was a snowstorm. We were
Yeah.
doing. Were you at that performance?
think
we were
so.
doing. There was a snowstorm at the matinee down in the village when we were doing Tony and Tina's wedding. I think there was more people in the cast than there were in the audience.
Yeah.
And I really mean that. And you know what? We gave the performance of our life because, those people paid for the ticket.
Yeah.
And you don't go, oh, there's only, 10
Yeah.
people out there. You give the performance. That's what you do.
Plus, if
You
people
give
show up in a
110.
snowstorm, they're motivated.
That's
to
right.
be
They
there,
want to be
you
there.
know?
Yeah.
You give 110. They came to see the show. You give them a show.
Yeah. There was one time we did it, and it was Super Bowl Sunday, and we had like half a house.
Right.
And everyone's saying it's going to be a bunch of Japanese tourists who don't speak English and a bunch of pissed off men.
Who cares?
We had it
blast.
was magic.
A
I mean, it was
blast.
absolutely on fire.
So much fun.
And it was like really going to an Italian wedding because we would drag people into the bathroom and say, "You believe this
Everything.
one? Like, she looks like a butana, you know."
Yeah.
I mean, you would just do stuff like that, you know.
How was the audience for that? Like, could you tell right away when your audience was Italian people versus non-Italian people?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
they get
Oh,
the
yeah, 'cause
lingo
they
and
get
everything.
in, they
but the
come right
thing
at
is,
you.
some of the nicest, some of the people from the Midwest were terrific because they thought it was hilarious. They don't understand what you're saying, but it just sounds funny.
Do they think we're like monkeys in the zoo? That's always my fear.
No, I
He's
think
very, very proud.
No, I think that they revere us. I think that they revere the Italians. We're very different from them, especially
Yeah.
in New York, and the hearing
Yeah.
the accents and stuff. They love it.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to play with them. And I used to love Saturday nights because I used to call them the dinner dance people. The couples that would come in. Like, my parents, how they would go to dinner dances and they would come in. There was older couples and sometimes with bachelorette parties. But no, they're just so much fun. They loved being in New York. They
Yeah.
loved they used to come in with their Macy's bags shopping. Remember they used
I mean,
to
this
come
might
in.
have been their trip of a lifetime if they come
They
to
loved
someplace
it.
like New
They
York.
came,
Yeah.
they got tickets. They're going to see Tony and Tina's wedding. They had heard about it. And they're going to see the New York Italians. It's not
Yeah.
the Italians in the Midwest. They're going to see the New
But,
York
yeah.
Italians.
Like I watched the show The Bear, which I think is a really good show.
I've
but
heard
it's
about it. I haven't watched
I
it.
honestly-
Everybody keeps
very
saying,
good
yeah.
acting. The lead
It
was-
is,
was
but
great.
some of the casting to me is kind of odd. I don't believe they have any Italian Americans.
This is
The
a
main
recurring issue,
Recurring conversation
Yes.
we always have.
especially
And
with Italian American
they don't-
actors.
I do not
Italians.
believe.
They never
some
do.
of them I buy it, but some of them I don't believe that they're Italian.
Somebody came in, Amory, who works with us, who's from the Midwest, German, Norwegian, and she came in today and was telling me she's been watching The Offer on Paramount Plus about the making of The Godfather.
Oh yeah, that
Oh,
was
right,
very good.
right.
It was good.
Yeah,
But the Italian characters, again, nobody was cast. One guy,
there was some Michael Rispoli, I think, was in it.
the guy who
Yeah.
played
Oh,
Oh, in The Godfather?
the writer of The Godfather, Puzo. The guy who played Mario Puzo
What
was
the one
Italian.
that
Yeah.
Pacino was Italian?
No, in the new
the new- oh.
the show about
Show
making
about
the
the
show.
making
Oh,
of
and
it.
the Offer.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
the
you're
guy
right.
who played Mario Puzo was Italian. The guy who played Coppola wasn't. The guy who played Joe Colombo, Giovanni Ribisi, I guess Italian, but he grew up like a Jehovah's Witness or whatever he is in like the middle of nowhere. He's like not that Italian, right? But I think about that a lot because I think of a lot of conversation I've had with Italian American actors who get typecast into these roles that are not particularly flattering, and then they go, well, when there's juicy, good Italian stuff out there, we don't get cast in it,
Yeah,
and
they'll
it's a
cast them
tragedy.
for loss for something.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's always been our question. I mean, I don't know.
it's
I
like
don't know.
yeah, like anybody can play an Italian or
Right.
something.
Right.
But everybody loves Raymond,
Yeah,
like the mother.
only he was Italian.
He's the only Italian on
Yeah.
there.
But
She was very
Italians and
good.
Jews get
Kinda interchangeable,
cross-cast
yeah.
a lot.
Very good.
I've played Jewish characters a lot.
Yeah.
But also Doris Roberts was
I
a
could
brilliant
play,
actress.
she was
Right.
fabulous.
Yeah.
She's a great
She was. You know what?
actress.
She was terrific.
I
in?
played
Hester
Jewish.
Street.
Yeah.
I never
yeah.
saw that.
Oh,
Yes.
it's Carol Kane's breakout film.
Really?
Yeah.
And it takes place on the Lower East Side here.
She's great. Yeah. She was in something else too. She was in I forget, there was a little film that she was in and I saw
Yeah.
it recently. But I get cast as Greek, I get cast as Jewish,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
Middle
you feel
Eastern.
typecast sometimes?
I don't care. It's work.
Not well. My
I
agent,
want it.
seems to be putting me in that. Like it's always getting these auditions for mob wives because I can play them.
Yeah.
But I don't look as Italian as others. Some people are. Because I have the blue eyes and fair and straight featured and stuff. But yeah, I get a lot of mob wives.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's kind of.
Do you get tired of that?
Well, if it's a good script, no, because I know that. I mean,
Yeah.
there have been mob wives. There have been brilliant portrayals. I would have been happy and lucky to play them, but when it's that kind of, stereotypical, don't we have
wanna-
anything else to
yeah,
say about
you wanna-
Italians
Right.
here?
Yeah, you want to play other things. You want to play maybe another side of Italian. But I mean, if
Yeah.
those are the roles, I mean, if that role comes your way, you're happy to do it.
I mean,
I'm
look
happy.
at
I
look
know
at
what I can get cast
look
as.
at Edie Falco. I mean,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
Carmela Soprano. That was a brilliant
Yeah.
role. She did a
Great
brilliant
role.
job in it.
She got it.
Yeah,
That was
but
the
she's
success
Italian
of
too.
it, yeah.
And she
She
didn't
got
look
it.
like your typical.
No, I think
you know,
she's half Swedish.
She
I
was
believe.
really
Swedish,
there
yeah.
was something subtle about her and
Yeah.
something very Italian,
blonde.
and she was but
She
there was
channeled
something.
Italian female anger.
Yes, but
Better
it
than
wasn't
anybody.
that typical.
She was always ready to kill him.
The
It was
teased
that
up
constant-
hair,
Yeah.
mob wife kind of thing. But she was. There was something very, very real about her, and I think that's why
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I have not watched as much as he has,
Good casting.
but she exhibited always to me that sort of struggle, that's because there's the Italian in the suburbs who's like surrounded by other Italians who's just cool with it. Then there's the one who kind of wants to fit in with everybody else, and I could see that pull in her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also
we were
Edie
both in it.
Falco's.
We were
yeah.
both did the Sopranos.
Yeah.
We both
Really?
did it.
Yeah.
We both did the Sopranos.
What episodes were you?
I was in the 4th season. I was the one who sold Furio's house. I had a scene with Edie.
Oh wow.
And I also was in Nurse Jackie, officer. But Edie Falco is also a trained actress.
She's
she
a
has
trained actress.
she has a degree from, I believe,
She's
Purchase.
She's the real deal.
'Cause
Purchase,
she,
yeah, in
which has a really
Westchester.
good acting.
Is that
school.
right?
Yeah,
Schools,
no, Purchase
it's a
does.
good
Yeah.
school. Purchase. Yeah, I did Bobby Bacala's sister. I was in the last
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Really?
Last episode, yeah, it was great. I had a good time. I didn't get, it got cut, but I had a great time. I had a scene with the daughter Meadow
Yeah.
and Edie Falco.
I would love
really
to see a
nice.
director's cut.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
How was
It
that?
was a lot of fun.
I've only heard that people said it was a very Italian American atmosphere
Yeah.
on that
Yes.
set.
Yes.
Did you feel
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And
Very much.
She-
James Gandolfini was a doll. He
yeah,
was a doll.
I just briefly said hello to
Total
him,
doll.
but I work with her. She is lovely.
She's
And it was
lovely.
really nice
Lovely.
when you meet people like that and you feel like, well, God bless them. They're deserving of their success.
Yeah.
And, they were just lovely. And
Yeah.
what was terrific was doing the table read. Because I did a table read, and it's very intimidating because, you're sitting there opposite. I mean, David Chase is there. It's like 45 people.
Yeah.
And you're doing the table read, and I swear I was shaking. And I said my line, I got a big laugh, and I was like, but you could see, I mean, it's a quality show.
Yes,
Yeah.
very top quality. I was in the dressing room with Edie Falco, and she was sitting next to me, and I was getting made up and everything. I'm sitting right next to her. I'm getting like my hands were shaking. I was like, oh God, calm down, But she was so nice, and like the last day we shot, she goes, come here, give me a hug, And she was just the real deal. And he was wonderful. He
Yeah.
was wonderful. He was.
Yeah, I heard that from a number of people.
We were filming in the Newark Cemetery, and it was very, very cold that day. It was the middle of February, and I remember the costume lady. She came over. She goes, "Okay, you got to change your shoes now." And I changed my shoes, and I was balancing. I was like on a rock, and it was like a piece of grass, and I was going to fall. And James Gandolfini walked over to me, and he put his arm around me. He goes, "Come here, lean on me." He goes, "Lean on me. You're going to fall."
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You always remember.
But I think he also was a trained actor.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, so I think there was a big difference between that and people who are behaving, and they are very authentic and they can do that one thing and do it really well. But James, he was a wonderful actor.
I mean, a lot of think about the cast of that show and the mother,
Michael Imperioli.
Mike
So
Imperioli.
real.
Yeah, I mean, like this, Genese. I mean, these people are.
Yeah.
We get beat up when we bring this topic up because we had one episode where because I say you have to bifurcate it in my opinion, right? So there's the mob portrayal, which is a very complicated conversation.
Yeah.
But if you take the family dynamics,
Yeah.
it's a very accurate family dynamic.
Yes.
North Jersey, Italian American, the Bloomfield Avenue, to quote Joe Piscopo, like that stretch of land. Like
Piscopo,
some of the stuff they do, I mean, you get it. That's why
Yeah.
when that show was on Sunday nights, you could have robbed a bank in New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody would have gone
Forget
for
it.
Monday.
Nobody
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
known.
Nobody
right?
would have done it. And I think that people lose that because they allow the and I understand people feel that Italians are always being typecast and a negative
But it's
portrayal and all the
also
negativity.
changed. That Jersey, the mob thing, the Sopranos, it's also changed. If you look at The Godfather And then you look at the Sopranos, over the years,
Yeah.
what's the difference between that? You could see how it's changed,
Big
and
time.
the kids are being raised a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very deep and complicated.
Yeah. I also feel like, to me, when I watch The Godfather, to me, it's like King Lear.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's about
Godfather.
power.
100%.
I love it.
It's about power. It's
100%.
Shakespearean.
It's power
really.
and
It is
family.
Shakespearean, yeah.
And
And
I feel
family.
like, okay, these people, they do have a fascination
Mm-hmm.
because of what they do. But it's also, how can you look at that and not appreciate the artistry of it?
Yeah. I agree. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, because people say, oh, it glorifies the mob. No, what glorifies the mob is stuff like growing up gaudy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
But even
different.
if it did glorify it, because to some people's minds, you can't negate the
The
King Lear
reality,
aspect. That's,
right.
that's
No,
just that's
it's about
that's
the,
just
how power
and
corrupts.
the reality, and also what's great about The Godfather. I remember watching The Godfather for the first time, and I came out of there and I was proud to be an Italian.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the mobster.
We got
or
the
anything.
viral moment right now.
It was
They're gonna go nuts. We're gonna get. We got so many. Ready, Nikki?
But it's
Here
true.
it comes.
I was proud.
We're gonna get them
this
all.
is the feeling I
Yeah.
had. I saw The Godfather, and I was proud. I was younger. I was proud to be an Italian because The Godfather also showed the strength of the family.
That's what it's really
we
about.
Strength
Correct.
of the family. That mother was there. She was cooking. The men sat down and they ate all together. Besides, they were criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not glorifying
Yeah.
criminals.
None of us are. None
But
of us
I'm-
are espousing
I'm
the criminal.
looking at-
Yeah, sure.
I'm looking at the family,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how they raise the kids, and there was something about there was something very, very solid that was being said in that movie. That's why when you had that scene when he was baptizing the baby, and everybody was being shot. That was really
That's deep.
tearing at you. You're split in two.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, look at these people. They love God and they go to the Catholic Church and the baby's being baptized, the holy water, and then they're out killing.
And who's he
called for the kill.
Who's he doing it all for? He's doing it for that kid. That's why he's doing all
I've
this
said that
stuff
for
anyway.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
another questionable
right?
thing.
That's-
But that's why you're so torn in that. That's why you're so torn.
But what makes Vito Corleone? His mother died for him.
That's
Yeah.
right. His mother was
his mother
shot in
his
cold
mother
blood.
died. Right. The Italian.
Right.
The Italian. What is the Catholic religion in Italy? The story about a mother and a son.
Right.
Right.
And
What
it's-
is Good Friday? You go to
Right.
Good Friday in Spain.
Right.
There you have a
It's La
crucifixion. In Italy,
Madonna-
it's like, look what he did to his poor
La
mother.
Madonna Lucia.
Right. That's
Yeah.
right. The
Right.
broken. And if you take Vito Corleone's life, my kids will never go through what I went through.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a reaction
Right.
to the fact that his mother died to
Right.
save him, the ultimate act of a parent, laying down a life for a child. And I think when you have when they're on the stoop and you have
Oh.
Vito Corleone saying to Michael, I love you very much. And
Right.
he kills, what's his name, Fanucci?
Don Fanucci.
Yeah.
Don Fanucci.
Don
Fanucci.
Because
Oh
he
my
is never going
God.
to allow his kids to risk what happened to him. And if you take that as the ultimate Italian story, because
Right.
does he do it for him or does he do it for his
He
family?
does it for the community too.
Yeah, and you take that and
He's sick of that guy walking through the
yeah,
streets
correct,
and taking
100%.
from everything.
And I think that once you get to those conversations, like so many people just shut down when we discuss this. They
Yeah.
just shut down. You're glorifying the mafia, and we're not. I mean,
No.
none of us would glorify
You have to look at
that
it from
lifestyle.
all different angles.
But what drove him? What drove him to that life? I think he's such a complex character.
Yes, and
Yeah.
there's
It's
not
such a complex.
There's not one way
And
to
Michael
look at the
Corleone,
Godfather.
incredibly complex.
Unbelievably.
He was a war hero.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think he wanted, even
And he
Vito says, I
turned.
never wanted this for you.
I
I,
never
thought you were
wanted
going
this
to
for
be a
you."
senator or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But also the fact that it was young Italian-American creators.
Yeah.
It's very deep. You
Who,
have to
like,
look at it differently.
mean,
Michael
Different
Yeah, I mean,
embraces the
they were
wasp-
young.
the
Yes.
waspiness.
Yes.
And yet then when Kay is at the pinnacle of waspiness, he reacts.
Right.
The Sicilian in him kicks
Right.
in. Like he did so much to walk away from it. At the end of the day, he was more Sicilian than he could ever have imagined.
And
Yeah.
women at those times, you didn't ask about your husband's business. When he used to say, "Don't ask me about my business. Don't
Yeah.
ask me about
Yeah.
my business."
And don't
There was a
interfere.
separation there. You
Yeah.
know?
When Connie's husband
Yeah.
was
my
Carlo.
God,
Carlo.
When he was an animal, a
Oh
brute.
my God.
The one mother wanted, don't interfere.
Yeah.
Right.
You never say nothing. You
Don't-
don't interfere
Yeah.
between the man and wife.
Yeah,
I
don't
remember
get in the middle.
an
Right.
interview with.
If you take, can I just jump in? See, I have a theory, and maybe we had one guest on who agree with this. The Godfather is a Sicilian story. Stoic, serious. The Sopranos is a Neapolitan story. It's a circus, 100%.
I think
It's
that these
different
things
time
are
period, you know, The Godfather, and then the 40s, and then up to the modern day, and it shows
also
how it's changed.
The way Italians were treated back then.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an explanation, not an excuse for mob behavior. But even my father said, you know, he would talk about certain things growing up, and a lot of people didn't even think Italians were white back then.
No, they wouldn't. No, but they were totally.
They were beat up. We were
bottom
beat
of
up
the
by
barrel.
cops, lynched, you know, and nobody.
We had this
Right,
conversation
the
this
lynchings
week.
in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, there's also a lynching in Tampa.
No.
There's lynchings
There
in
was.
Mississippi,
There were
Italian lynchings. There's all
lynchings,
over.
Wow.
there was
No,
a
I
lot
did
of
not know
lynchings. A
that.
lot of people don't know that.
New Orleans was the largest, but there was lynchings all over,
Right.
all over different parts of
Wow.
America for Italians.
And
I mean,
nobody ever discusses that. It's like it
nobody
never
does.
happened.
No, because I never even knew about it.
No,
I
we
read
found
about
it through
Somebody told me about it.
Sabino. They posted
Yeah.
it, and I told her. I think I told you because I hadn't.
No,
heard about it.
I'd known that beforehand,
Oh, no,
but
I didn't know
knew
that.
about that in New Orleans, you know, because
Yeah.
I think I was, reading up on Tennessee Williams,
Hmm.
because he wrote about a lot of Italians in
Really?
New Orleans.
Oh, sure,
Well,
Rose Tattoo.
Rose Tattoo.
I never read the
and
Rose
he did,
Tattoo. I should. Everybody
he
says
did,
that's.
what do you call it? A Streetcar Named Desire, you know. But I was learning about the Italians and the lynchings. I never knew that. I was shocked,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
But-
we interviewed a 98-year-old gentleman the other day.
Wow.
He's a veteran of World War II. He's a famous artist. He's a famous cookbook author. The guy's won a James Beard Award. He's had his paintings in the Met. I mean, it's just a fat.
What's his name?
Ed Giobbi. He's up in. He lives in Katona now,
wow.
and he was one of the most fascinating humans you'll ever meet. And he was describing to us growing up in the Depression as an Italian in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Oh
And
yeah, that's a big
Waterbury.
Italian. I used to show up
Huge.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Seven
Oh, my
Angels
gosh.
Theater.
Yep,
Huge.
Waterbury, Connecticut.
a huge community. But he was saying how abused they were, and I mean,
Yeah, it was a kind of. It was. I said to him, we have a lot of Gen Z
Yeah.
listeners, and we have like younger millennials, and they have no idea being called guinea or wop
Oh,
or
yeah.
dago
Oh,
or you
yeah.
can't get that job.
My
or,
father used
yeah.
to. My father was a steam fitter, and he used to say he was called a lot of names on the job.
Yeah.
And I would come home with these Italian jokes from school, and I would tell them at the dinner table. And he goes, "What are you telling Italian jokes for?" He said, "Why don't you tell jokes about this one or that one?"
Yeah.
He goes, he didn't like it, and I stopped because I could see that people would say things to
Yeah.
him. They pick on you sometimes at the jobs. You had this
Yeah.
blue collar
Yeah.
job, and you had all different. You had Irish. You had all different ethnic groups working, and they would say things about the Italian. They would tease him,
Yeah.
And I stopped with the Italian jokes
yeah.
because, I love Pat Cooper.
you can't
Oh,
beat
my
Pat Cooper.
God,
Pat
I
Cooper.
love Pat
Did you ever meet him
Cooper.
in person?
Yes.
No, you should-
He was intense.
I went to see him at the
He was
danger
intense.
fields on the east side, and I went up to him and I said, "I've been listening to you since 10th grade." I said, I got your record with when you're laying in the sandwich, my hero.
course.
I said, "I've been listening to you since the 10th." He goes, "You got class." He goes, "You got class." You know how he would go, "You got class." I loved him, so I would come home with the Italian jokes, and my father didn't like it. He didn't like it.
I spent
He'd get mad at me.
Someone had hired Pat Cooper, and I was there when they were doing
I
the
loved
deal.
him.
It was later in his career.
Funny
So
guy.
I spent a night in a hotel lobby. So they had about 15 minutes of negotiation conversation, and the rest of it was just Pat Cooper. And I was like, this is the exact guy on stage. He was such an intense.
Yeah.
He was like a volcano.
Yes.
That was just bubbling. It was
Wild.
very, yeah, he
Wild.
was.
He was Barres, right?
I think that the mother's side was from Sorrento.
But you don't know
Because,
that though.
Gargiulo.
But he
That's
went by
Sorrento.
Barres, though. His
I
His
know
father was
he's
from Mola,
Barres.
Yeah.
The father's from Mola di Bari.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think that, well, I mean, I don't want to, stir up the family discord that they had, right?
Yeah, I know.
And I'm not a Howard Stern fan under any circumstances, right? But I don't mean this to be funny, for anthropological reasons, I did listen to his arguments with his mother, and I don't think they're staged. But I thought about when you listen to Pat Cooper's mother. So, you're a big shot now.
I
right?
never heard her. I never heard her.
It's very.
Oh, wow.
If you take Scorsese, Italian Americans in 1974 with his parents, which John and I reference all the time. Like,
Yeah.
If you want to know the Italian American, first generation, American born, World War II greatest generation, I think Scorsese, and he just put the camera on.
Yeah,
Right.
always
Scorsese's
mother.
was that.
great.
Yeah.
Great. She's
But I,
great.
I
She
think
was
also
amazing.
part of
Yeah,
the
she was
Italian American
great.
dysfunction, and I'm not here to celebrate it.
Yeah.
And I think Stern was a troublemaker, right? He did that for a reaction, but really from an anthropological or psychological perception, it's so. I mean, it's deep. It's
Yeah.
with theatrical people.
Absolutely.
even that's why I was saying to Anne-Marie, because
I
we
love
have our
Pat
token.
Cooper. He was fabulous.
He was
non-Italian.
genius.
She
His
can't get over
delivery
the fact
was
is
brilliant.
she can't get over that we fight, and then like somebody that when the Sopranos were on, I think he was a writer for the Chicago Tribune, wrote an article about, so I guess in the 70s he meets his non-Italian girlfriend at the University of Chicago, brings her home for the first Thanksgiving, and I guess he had 2 or 3 sisters, and they got in a fight with his mother in the kitchen, and the mother tells the daughters to go drop dead, and they're screaming. And then the daughter just
Violent.
The girlfriend just figures, okay, well, they're never going to speak again. Like, and he's like, and then like 20 minutes later, they're all eating and laughing. And she had like a whole night. She's like traumatized. What just happened? And he's like, you're never going to understand it.
Yeah, you can't understand.
No,
it.
you can't. I mean, I remember one Christmas we were, having coffee and cake, after dinner and everything, sitting around, millions of people around the table. And it was very loud. We're very loud. Who's having conversations? There's 10 conversations. My friend Norman came up to visit, because I said to him, I said, stop over and have coffee and dessert. So he comes up the stairs and I woke. I said, Norman, I heard the doorbell. And I said, come on in. He goes, oh, I don't want to come in. He goes, if your family's fighting. He goes, I said, fighting. I said, we're having dinner. I said, we're just talking. Come on in.
Yeah.
He thought that he goes, I thought you're all for Norman. He walks in, Norman. And, he thought we were fighting. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that.
The non-Italian coming to a holiday is it's a bit into
Do you
itself.
think that still exists? You think that's going to die with us?
Maybe I don't know. It's in my
I
family.
don't feel like it will. I don't know. I think there's something like Chaz Palminteri did a great documentary. They did about the Italians, and they did different ones on PBS. They did one with the Jews, one with the Poles.
Yeah.
And he said something really fascinating. He said, when you go to an Italian-American home, at least on the East Coast, you will have the same experience. Working class Italian-American home, the food, the talk. Like, we're sitting here, we basically never met before.
No, yeah.
And we've been talking like it's nothing.
Right.
Because Italian, it's that connection.
We just talk.
Yeah. Very often it's involving food.
Yeah.
You can always talk about food,
It's true.
But it's the same. Like, we went to visit, we have some wonderful, like, super fans. We have this wonderful lady who's 99 years old. She's 100 now. Gussie.
She's fabulous.
And her daughter, Bobby, we did a cameo for them. We wound up meeting up with them, and we became friends. And they invited us over for her 98th birthday.
They invited us over to their
99th
home.
birthday.
Where are they?
Actually,
Jersey.
Jersey. They actually had a beautiful catered affair. It was in the
we
home.
get out of the car.
It's beautiful.
We get out of the Uber, and it was like cousins, what we hadn't seen in 10 years.
Yeah, it was great.
It was exactly,
Yeah.
it actually exceeded my expectations because they were such wonderful people. But I kind of knew, because another people, like WASPs, can you imagine?
No.
They'd be like, what, you're going to a stranger's house? No, they're good people. We
Yeah,
talk.
we
did a cameo for them. They're fine.
They're okay.
Yeah, they're in Jersey.
Yeah.
They're
They're not
gonna
ex-murderers,
they're
don't worry.
catering.
Do you know how many listeners I talked to? I forget how I'm like, oh, didn't I meet you through the podcast?
Oh,
Yeah.
he
And there's people that, but because they're the tribe, we get along with them because
yeah.
Right.
because we all understand it.
Right.
When we used to travel for our web show, Greetings from Italian America, we'd go to all these communities, and as it started to grow, then when we would reach out and say we were coming, people might have seen it or they were listeners to the podcast. I mean, we went, it's about to come out actually, to Roseto, Pennsylvania, and it's all Italians, right? This is like great village there. We got so well. They were riding us around on the fire truck, and like it was like we lived there our whole lives, or Tontitown, Arkansas. We made so many friends, and stop filming. You're going to come eat at our house, and like we were just immediately adopted by these people,
Yeah.
and I'm convinced.
It's a definition
There's a
of
shared
tribe.
experience.
It's a tribe, yeah.
It's a
There's a
very
shared experience as
I
an
think
Italian American.
I think the holiday table has changed. I have to say, it's probably going to change through the generations. I think you're still going to have the warmth and the family. I don't know if people are having as many children, but it's probably going to change. It's not going to be the way it was when I was growing up. But someone like it. I think once it's in your blood, there's something about that you don't let go. Even if you're not making all the traditional food, there's something about the togetherness that always stays there. And that's
There
for
was a
many
war-
cultures.
there was a
That's
war
not
on a
just
lot of that
Italian,
food,
many
too.
cultures.
A what?
There was a war on a lot of that food.
What do you mean?
If you take the every time there was a shift in the food pyramid from the FDA, there was an annoying Italian. Oh, you're not going to make.
fungal.
But how much stuff did that kill?
What is this about?
He's saying like when they change what's healthy for you, then you get the
please.
family
My
members that tell you.
grandmother ate
Listen to that.
macaronis every day.
My
from
parents
when she lived
never
till she was
listened to
90.
that.
But
Forget it.
I think it had an effect.
Yeah.
Well,
Look
I
at the
don't know.
Who
1980s.
eats what? And, yeah. And
Like,
that,
listen,
Oh, like Atkins. That would me.
Atkins
that'll
had
kill you.
macaroni.
That'll kill you right there.
Did it?
Sure
Atkins
did.
had the meat. That was all the meat,
Sure,
right?
but look at go to a 1990s New Jersey ShopRite macaroni aisle, and then go back now. It's shrunk. Because
Really?
carbs are the new. Carbs are like the worst thing in the world.
They
now.
got
I do hear a lot of people, even people who
carbs,
maintain
pasta.
traditions,
Yeah.
will say like, we don't eat like that anymore. You know, pasta every day. My grandfather would eat pasta every day,
Yeah.
Well, they
right?
eat
Like,
pasta every day.
Every
in
day.
Italy.
Yeah, that was their
we
life.
don't eat pasta every day here.
Right.
You know, it's different.
Or the portions and those kind of things.
Yeah.
I noticed that, and also the holidays change too. Like you think about the way I remember holidays. We all lived in one town. The way my dad remembers, they lived in one building. People would be in and out, and now even for us, we are all scattered. My brothers and I, and
Yeah,
my cousins. So you're getting together in one place. You don't have the same pop-ins and who's coming over for coffee, and you know what I mean. It's not like
Yeah,
it used to be
yeah.
shifts, right? Who
It
came
was
over for
different. It was
this?
different.
And,
You always
yeah.
had a bottle on the table. The Strega was here, and the
Yeah.
whatever, and you had the glasses. Everybody would stop in Christmas morning and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's different
know,
because everybody's spread.
The thing that's changed for us is that we don't do the soup on Thanksgiving, and we don't do the manicotti because
Yeah, it's
you
too
can't
much.
eat.
Too much.
You know?
Too
much.
But
Nobody's
how do
gonna
we
eat.
do it? I will die on that.
I
hill.
know.
Oh my God! And
I'm gonna die
I
on that.
remember
I will
Don
never give up the
DeLuise. I was
macaroni.
watching him on
Yeah.
Johnny
Can't no more.
Carson, and he says, the turkey in my family became a centerpiece. He says,
true.
because nobody ate anything.
Nobody
He
eats
ate
turkey.
the
My,
Yeah, but
my
you know
mother
what?
finally
I got another
declared
theory.
war and she stopped doing
Hold
it.
on.
Did she really?
I want to
Sit.
go on record with this. I have another theory.
Yeah.
Restaurant portions destroyed it. Because if you take a plate from the 1950s, it's smaller than a plate now.
now it's like a boat.
Now, so what happened is Americans
like a tray.
trough.
Because remember,
Yeah.
we never went out to eat, right? Then we
Yeah.
started to go out to eat. Now you have a world where everybody's eating out all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Going
now,
out for holidays,
so getting
too,
a piece
now
of
people go out.
lasagna
Yeah.
that was small, like this, which you could handle with a piece of turkey,
Yeah.
even though we're big portion people, now you get a piece of lasagna that's this big.
Yeah,
It's huge.
It's true. You take it
And-
home and have it for lunch.
And,
you
yeah.
know?
And then so then all of a sudden they're like, well, why were you able to eat the piece of lasagna and the turkey in 1952, and now you can't have it? And I think because we expanded, because a multi-course Italian meal has measured out portions.
Yeah.
But I
it's
think
not-
we were
yeah.
stuffed in that time too, eating that lasagna and everything.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
you had
remember,
antipasto, you
yeah.
had soup.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, my God! By the
Yeah.
time the turkey came, who wanted it? I
know.
remember staring at it on full. You know.
I mean,
We
it sounds
can't
like
lose if we lose it, we're done.
It sounds like a joke.
I think it's such a hill.
But you don't
I
see
want-
people open their pants anymore. Every male in my
no,
family
we
used to
never
open their pants
Oh, yeah,
after
my
meal. That was
God,
a
we
normal
opened his
thing. Yeah,
pants, yeah.
I thought it was the greatest thing in the world as a
like,
kid.
there were things.
Brioche.
They were like, if you take like
Digestion's a big part of our culture. Really.
And then you had leftovers at 7:00. Of
course.
And then went and watched TV. The women made the
course.
coffee, and you came back
And then
in.
you had
the
another
cake.
piece of pumpkin
Yeah,
pie.
why not?
And then you took out the food again and put it on the table.
Yes, the
And you
best.
had to come and eat. I remember my mother calling everybody, "Come on, it's time to eat. Time to eat." And you didn't. You had the food. The food was up to here, but you sat down and you ate
Yeah.
again.
You did. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody the other day talking about Christmas Eve. I don't remember who was here. We had a guest on, and they were saying, and their family, which was Sicilian, like my mom's side, the big thing was after Mass, they'd eat bacon and eggs or sausage and eggs. My family did that every year until
Oh, really?
I
On
never
Christmas
did
Eve?
that.
That's
Christmas
just
Eve,
after
we-
midnight.
I never
come
did
home.
that.
After
after midnight,
midnight
after midnight,
mass.
after
Oh,
midnight.
okay.
So it's
Sausage
Christmas
and
Day.
eggs? I
Sausage
never
and
heard
eggs.
of
My
that.
grandfather until, I mean, it's 20 years ago now. My grandfather's
No, we didn't do
88,
that.
but when we were kids,
wow.
we'd finish or who would go to midnight mass, whatever, and my grandfather would look at his watch. You knew my grandfather's a sausage guy, and you could see like 11 o'clock he'd start looking at his watch,
I have a
and he
friend, Robert.
wanted
They used to eat gnocchi when they came home from midnight mass.
gnocchi.
They had gnocchi. Well, because also you're not supposed to eat meat. On
Yeah, I was gonna
Christmas
say,
Eve.
But after
yeah.
midnight you
Christmas
can.
After
Eve,
midnight you
after
can.
midnight.
That's
you
why my
can.
grandfather was waiting because he wanted
yeah,
meat.
yeah.
Here's the thing. We could lose it. I think you're right. But whose job is it? It's our job.
It's our
to
job.
keep it going.
To keep it going.
We have to keep it going.
But that's what you guys are doing, right?
We're all in that same trench.
We do it through our we do it through our our talking and what we do, and I try to do it also at home.
Yeah.
We want to be in control of it.
Yeah.
We worked hard to do that. We worked hard to be in control of it, and we want to do what we want to do. Not that we don't take suggestions, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like some of the remixes that we do that go viral, we do both sides of it. Sometimes you see these Medagons making this garbage.
my God.
macaronis,
And
and they're
Oh,
hot
God.
dogs,
Oh, so-
and the jarred
the
sauce.
bad
Yeah, it's horrible.
And I crushed Doritos on top, and
And
then
then
put
the
it
barbecue
Kushki.
sauce. And what about the
Oh,
barbecue
that
sauce?
gives you
Why
chills.
don't forget that. And then the
Barbecue
ketchup on
sauce.
top
and the
of
cheese
that.
out of the can.
And the Gouldens.
God.
Golden's mustard.
Mustard.
We're not making this up. But then you'll see these wonderful, fabulous cooks
Fabulous,
making stuff.
beautiful.
There's this Turkish
Like
woman
Nona
who does
Pia.
stuff from absolutely.
I think I've seen
from
this Turkish. Like,
She's
some of the
fabulous.
stuff
She's
that's
like
Absolutely
silk,
from
her puffs,
Yeah.
silk. And then
Everything
Nona
from
Pia.
scratch.
yeah, they do beautiful
She's
work.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and you have to
she
respect
really-
that too. And I think
That's why
that's
I
why
love-
people like us, because we respect that too.
Yeah.
We're not making fun of that. That's
It's art.
It is.
But it's only possible Nona Pia because of the democratization.
Yes.
Because she would have had no voice in 1980.
No.
Yep.
Right.
No.
You know,
it must
and
be.
this
I'm
medium
assuming
has
it's her
allowed us-
grandson who
Sounds
decided
like
to
because
put
she
her on. It
calls
sounds
her
like a
Nonna
younger
They're the
man.
best. The best are the Italians who are old and very old now.
Yes.
Who have grandchildren in their 30s and 20s
Yeah.
Right.
filming them.
Exactly.
Right. Who
And
appreciate
you could
it.
watch them all day long.
I mean, look,
really
our
because they're
It's
so
like
they're
Nana.
so
And
naturally
she's
funny.
so real.
Our-
She's
our-
so real when she says something, like he'll say to Nana, what are you making today? I'm making the veal codlet.
Yeah.
You want some? You want some? No. And then he'll say, do you put that? No, I don't put it that. I put it this, But
My
she's
hands are
real.
clean. My
She's
hands are
real.
clean.
My hands are clean. Right.
Yeah.
My hands are clean. Like
Yeah.
she's real. She's not.
No.
This is real. And that, I mean, I remember my grandmother saying stuff like that, or
Yeah.
my mother when you
Yeah.
ask her,
Rosella invented the whole Nona field.
correct.
She really did. I mean,
She was the proto pioneer.
yeah, she really, to her credit, we always give her a lot of credit. She created this whole thing again, like you guys. I mean, Ro was doing videos before there was YouTube. So,
Wow.
it's about doing what's genuine, right? And that's what you're talking about, your characters. And we've been doing this for way more than an hour now. But tell me, as we wrap, what's next for these characters? What's next for Patty and Patty? Where does this vision go from here?
Well, we look at TV. We'd love to do some TV.
Yeah.
I think that's something we'd like to explore more.
Yeah.
Whichever way that would go, either, talk shows or whatever, characters on sitcom
Yeah.
or something like that. We keep writing.
Yeah.
We keep writing. We're going to be doing a benefit in December, the holiday hop that we do every year.
Yeah, we
Benefits
share
the
it
soup-
with other
Yeah.
performers.
Other
but-
performers, we benefit a soup kitchen.
That's beautiful.
It's
Holy
for
Apostles,
Holy
yeah.
Apostles.
Oh,
Soup
that's really
Kitchen. We
nice.
feed many, many people here in New York City. But we're open. I mean, we're really open to,
Yeah. Even a cooking
whatever.
show we could do.
Cooking
I mean,
show
you know.
or
Yeah.
something like that.
You want to keep the characters going,
Yeah.
pushing
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
If people can attach to the kind of stuff you guys are doing or what we're doing here on the show, it just makes them feel a little bit more normalcy and familiarity and a little bit more confidence and connection going
Yeah.
forward. So thank you guys for doing that.
Thank
and,
you.
Oh, pleasure. It
thank
was
you for
terrific.
coming here
Great
today.
conversation.
Yeah, it's been really a
you
pleasure
so
to
No,
have
we
you
had a
guys.
having us.
blast.
It's our honor to
Thank
have
you.
It really
you be
is.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
It
hope
really
we
is.
And we
get
really
to this
love what
again.
you guys are doing. I
Yeah,
think
this
it's
is
terrific.
Same to you
fabulous.
guys.
Keep doing
Thank
this
you.
because
Yeah.
I think through
There's a
telling
need for it.
stories, storytelling is a powerful thing. It's a way to really keep
Yeah.
the connection and
Yeah.
keep things going and keep those stories alive.
Yeah.
That we don't want, the stories we don't want to forget from our
Yeah.
families, from our ancestors.
That's the beauty of it all. And thank you for your story, Tay. I hope you guys out there have enjoyed this conversation and this particular story. Two wonderful ladies. And I hope we're going to be back together again at some point because this has been a lot of fun. So hope everybody out there has enjoyed. Thank you for listening. We'll see you
That
next
you're
week.
born an Italian. If you want your life to be great, see that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great. See that you're born an Italiano.